Welcome to another edition of Mark's Inspiration. Glad you could join me here today as always. And it's a beautiful sunny summer day in St. Louis, Missouri today. And I hope it's great wherever you are in the world. Smash that like button and subscribe before we get started. Check out my website at marksinspiration.com. And if you would like me to speak on something, leave a comment in the comment section and we will see what we can do. Today's topic is going to be, what is it going to be? I had it all out, now I forgot. Oh, well, here it is. Failure. We're going to talk about failure today. Everybody is afraid of failure, but the true successes in life embrace failure because they realize failure is a stepping stone to success. We're taught in school that it's bad to fail. Not maliciously, but remember when you would get an F on your test or your report card? The fear, you had to show your parents, they had to sign the report card, or at least that's the way they had to do it in the old days. But we didn't want to fail. But what I've realized as time has gone by, and I've lived a few years in this life, is the only way that you can succeed is to fail over and over and over again. The greatest successes in life have also been the greatest failures. Countless stories of people who have changed the world were people who failed over and over and over again. Thomas Edison, that's a classic. A news reporter came in one day and asked him, why do you continue in this futile effort to invent this light bulb thing when you've failed over 10,000 times? Edison turned to him and said, I haven't failed 10,000 times. I've just discovered 10,000 ways that it won't work. Which brings me one step closer to finding a way that it will work. And as we see today, we have the world lit by light bulbs. And Edison brought that to us by his ability to fail over and over again and not get discouraged and not give up. Think about this when you were a child. If you can remember, you probably can't, I can't. Or look at any child that's learning to walk. How many times does he or she fall down? Does the child fall down and say, well, boy, that walking's rough. I better give that up. I don't think I'm going to try that anymore. No, they get up over and over again and they try again until they can walk. And now they walk around as you and I do without any difficulties whatsoever. We don't even think about it. We just get up and we walk. Although sometimes if the road is a little rough, we have to be more careful. But we walk because we didn't give up. We tried again and again. Remember when you learned to ride a bicycle? Did you get on and just ride like a king right away? Of course you didn't. You fell down a couple times. Maybe you got scuffed up a little bit, but you didn't give up. What I'm saying is, when you were young, you did not give up so easily. We've been taught to give up. We've been programmed to give up, to not step out. Each of us has a dream within us. And if you're not pursuing that dream today, it's because you are afraid of failing. You are afraid of just not being able to do it. Because maybe you failed at some things in your life that seem very important to you. But I beg to differ. I would not call them failures. I would just call them life's learning lessons, if you choose to perceive them that way, because that's exactly what they are. Well, we're all born to make mistakes, and we're going to make them if we're doing something. There's a friend of mine, he says, if you are on the firing line of life, you are going to get fired at. So basically, if you're out there doing something, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to fail, and there are going to be people who cut you down, the haters. Even if you're not failing, they're going to try to find something to criticize you about because they're not doing nothing with their life, so they look for something to pick apart on someone else so they don't have to look within themselves and ask why they are not living up to the full potential. You have the potential to change the world. You touch the lives of how many people during your life? Many, many people. Maybe you think that you're not worth anything. Maybe you don't think your value is high. You're an important piece of the puzzle. If you take a puzzle of, let's say, 50,000 pieces, I don't know if a puzzle like that exists, and you take one piece out, that puzzle, and throw it away, that puzzle will never be complete. The same as you. If we take you out of the equation of life, the grand scheme, the big puzzle will never be complete. You have an important part to play, and you know within yourself what that part that you need to play is. But fear, logic, and reason stop you from pursuing that part, from pursuing your vision, from pursuing your dreams. Fear is always going to be there. The fear of failure. Just step out there and do it. You don't have to be afraid. Well, you'll feel the fear, but do it anyway. What is the difference between a hero and a coward? They're both human beings. The difference is the hero faces his fear. The coward turns away and doesn't face his. And usually he feels humiliated. I remember when I was younger, and we had bullies then. It was a common thing. We are always going to have bullies. And I would get humiliated. And I would be afraid. They would take my lunch money. I remember this one guy took my lunch money quite a few times. And I had other people talk badly to me and call me names. And I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't stand up for myself because I was afraid. I was afraid of failing, of getting beat up. Even later on when I started boxing, the fear of getting beat up drove me so hard that I trained so much that I was hurt all the time. Once again, that fear, the fear. But when I learned how to fight, in my first fight, I got into it with this guy, and he got the best of me. But I felt good because I faced my fear and I stood up for myself. Another thing, many of you young men want to date girls, but you're afraid to talk to them. You're afraid to approach them. You're afraid to walk up and just say hi because you're afraid you won't know what to say. That's a fear. Now, if you walk up and say hi to a girl and she rejects you, yes, it hurts, but I'll guarantee you, when you walk away, you feel better because you faced your fear. Whether or not she goes out with you or whether she likes you really means little. What is the important thing is that you approached her and you faced your fear. The next time it will be easier. And you walk away as a man because you showed up as a man. You did what you wanted to do. You didn't let fear control you. As I said earlier, the hero faces his fear. The coward allows the fear to control him. And he lives in humiliation and defeat. You don't have to live in defeat. I've failed many, many times. It makes me think of the time I fought up in Jeff City. I fought this left-handed guy, and I walked out there, and the first flurry of punches, he knocked me down. So I failed to defend myself, but I got back up and I beat that guy. Okay, I didn't give up. Another time I fought in the prison. I was not in prison, but we went to the prison and fought the prisoners. This guy just beat the hell out of me. He knocked me down 3 or 4 times. I've spoke of this before. I kept getting back up, and when I went back to the corner, I wanted the coach to stop the fight. But looking back in retrospect, I'm glad he didn't. But I finished the rounds. I lost, of course, but I didn't give up. Now, that was a failure. What did I learn from that? Although I love my coach and he had good intentions and he helped many, many people, I still felt he should have stopped the fight. Later on, I found out that the guy I was fighting had a half a horseshoe in his glove. 30 years later, I found it out. My coach told me. He didn't tell me at the time because they were having riots in the prison and the tensions were high and he didn't want to start any trouble, which was a wise move on his point. But because of that situation, me thinking the coach should have stopped the fight, I decided to go with another coach in a different location, which actually helped me and propelled me further toward my goals as a boxer. I was fighting amateur at the time. I ended up turning professional, and I ended up stopping with an undefeated professional record. I love boxing, but fear controlled me very much there because, as I said, I trained so much because I was afraid of being humiliated or losing that I didn't have that many fights, and I did not achieve the success that I was physically capable of achieving because of my fear. I constantly hurt myself by doing one more round, running one more mile, so I left my fight in the gym or out on the road, so to speak. I had to be perfect when I stepped in that ring, and if I wasn't, I trained so hard that I got hurt, and of course I wasn't perfect then. I always had to be in tip-top shape, but the problem was I just couldn't get there half the time because I destroyed myself in the process because even then fear was controlling me. My coach would tell me, you don't need to come here every day. I didn't listen. I thought I had to work harder than anybody else because we hear that spoken of many times today on YouTube, and many people say that. Okay, and there's some truth to that, but that's not the whole truth. The one thing you have to work the hardest on is what's inside of you, what's driving you. Manage that fear. Use that fear to motivate you, but not so much that you're destroying yourself and maybe others out there in the world trying to achieve the success that you think you need to be somebody. You are somebody right now. You are good enough right now. Now, that doesn't mean you can't improve in whatever you're doing or as a person, but you need to accept yourself and realize you are good enough at this very moment. You are perfection at this very moment. No matter how badly you view yourself, you are unfolding to become what you came here to become. And the only thing that stops that is you allowing your fear, the fear of failure, to control you. The only time a person fails is when they give up and they quit. I would have failed if they knocked me down and I didn't get back up, if I had the ability to get back up. I have been knocked out before and I couldn't get up, so that's a different story. But if you can get back up and not give up, you're going to get to where you want to go. So my message to you is get up and never give up. And I hope this inspires you to do that, because only you can change your life. The power lies within you to do that. Each of us has that power, but you have to make the decision to use it. And to use it, you have to step through the fear. On the other side of every fear that you have lies your desires, what you came here to achieve. You can do it. We need the help of other people, but only you can take that first step. I always quote Martin Luther King Jr., you don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. Maybe you're afraid because it's dark. You can only see one step. But when you take that first step, you will be able to see the next step, then the next, and the next. And that's all we got time for today. Thanks for joining me. Smash that like button, and I'll see you tomorrow.